Hello everyone, welcome to Techweek TV, brought to you by Callaghan Innovation. Delighted to have you here with us this afternoon, just swapped into the afternoon session. And in this session we're going to be talking about the power of incubators and accelerators for startups. Personally know quite a lot about this one, super excited to have these guys joining us. As Director of Community at the Kiwi landing pad, we help a lot of startups expand offshore, so I'm sure we're going to get into a good debate, which I'm very excited about, as you can tell. Okay, so joining us on this panel we have Imchi Fori, who's the General Manager of Level 2. We have Olga Karkavenko, Founder and Director of Enzino, and Anand Ranchod, General Manager at the Kiwi FinTech Accelerator. Sorry about the pronunciation, hopefully I got it kind of close. Hi guys, so I want to kick off. What is an incubator and an accelerator? We kind of realised with the people at home, they might not even know what that is, what the difference is. I mean, do you want to, Imchi, do you want to start off and tell us what you think they are?
Yeah, of course. So they're both organisations that are dedicated to supporting startups. Accelerators are a bit more programmatized. They tend to be a 3 to 5 month program with a curriculum of lessons that startup founders and teams find useful. Incubators still provide startup support, but they tend to do so in a less programmatized way. So that often comes with co-working space, working with other startups. It's a little less programmatized than an accelerator is. Both tend to come with investment, just on differing levels.
Is one longer than the other?
Yes, definitely. So accelerator programs, as I mentioned, are usually less than 5 months. Incubation programs or incubators work with the company for up to years.
Can all of you talk a little bit about, you all have backgrounds in quite different incubators and accelerators. You've got like a software lens, or you've got, you know, deep technology, which is completely different, and then the stuff that you're doing, Olga. Yeah, how does it differ if you're building like hardware versus software, and also the support that you're providing?
Well, I must say that the accelerators that I know of are quite homogeneous in terms of their gender, age, and proposals. And I don't know of any accelerator that would accept aging female scientists in biomedical research. So I think that we were very lucky that we now belong to Level 2 incubator. And this is quite a unique phenomenon when you have an incubator or hub, you know, that is designed around the companies that in need of laboratory space, and also very difficult in terms of investment because they are high-risk, long-term biomedical research or biotechnical research. So that's my main position and vision, that we are lacking, you know, support of very early startup in the field of biomedical research.
Sounds like we have some work to do in that area.
Definitely.
Imchi, do you want to talk a little bit just about Level 2 and what it is? Because it's one of New Zealand's best kept secrets that no one knows about.
Yeah, so Level 2's got an interesting history. We are the only incubator in New Zealand that has laboratory workshop spaces for our startups, particularly because we only work with deep tech. So anything that's science and engineering based, anything that is on the forefront of creating new industries in those fields. It's been around for over 20 years. Not a lot of people know that. It used to be an old DSIR building where government research used to happen. As the activities of the research institute shrunk, some of the spare space was leased out to the more entrepreneurial scientists and some of the spin-outs. Our first private company came on site 22 years ago. So Level 2 was kind of born out of a need, not because of a government mandate, and we've been building on that ever since. In fact, just tonight, and I'm glad you brought it up, Olga, there is a lot of support lacking in the really early stages of deep tech startups. A lot of accelerators tend to focus on digital tech, and that's great. Some of them are doing a great job. But building a deep tech, science-based or engineering-based startup is a very different story. they need more bespoke technical support, they often need more time and more investment. And that's what the Launch Lab, which I'm announcing tonight at our event, is going to be all about.
Awesome, super exciting. And over to you. So the Kiwibank FinTech Accelerator that you run, do you want to give us a bit of a background on that?
Absolutely, Sean. Look, I think Olga made a really good point earlier in that the need for specialisation is really critical to some of these early stage programs, and we really believe with the Kiwi FinTech Accelerator that the ability to provide all the regulatory support, the deep industry connections is a really powerful part of the proposition of the Kiwi FinTech Accelerator that provides, I guess, rather than just the generic kind of lean startup style approach, but actually the key ingredients to launch their business. And we think a big part of that secret ingredient that we think for the FinTech Accelerator is those partnerships in a highly regulated market. The ability for a startup to partner with an industry incumbent to go to market gives it a huge, great chance for success. And so we think that's a really big part of what we do. And so the FinTech Accelerator has been around for 3 years. We're expanding it this year to Auckland as well as Wellington, and even taking it to the provinces, and through our partners SBS down in Invercargill. So we're really excited about that.
Invercargill, that's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see that. Okay, so I would like to explore a little bit of why should someone go to an accelerator or an incubator as a startup. Like, how do they know that it's right for them or that they should explore that? And are there some people that it's potentially not very well suited to? Do you want to start with that one?
Sure. Look, I think for us at the Kiwi FinTech Accelerator, we look at both startups and scale-ups. So we've had good success with companies born in the accelerator like Sharesies that went from concept all the way through to launch within the program, and so that was a great success. We've also worked with post-revenue and post-product companies that have come in that haven't found their sweet spot, but they've, I guess, had that recognition that they're not on the trajectory that they want to be. And so that's what we've been able to do, work with them and establish those kind of key partnerships and help them move into that space. So Tapi would be a great example of that. Another one would be Henry, which is actually a finalist in this year's High Tech Awards, and they're in the category this Friday. So we think that's great. I think the key thing is that having a clear idea about what you're trying to solve and the change you're trying to make in the market. And if you're a more established business, just having the recognition that actually there is support out there, even if you're a seasoned founder or your product's already been established. There's always help that can be brought to bear, and I think that's kind of, if you've got that mindset coming in, then these programs are great for you.
It also depends on what technology you're working on. You'll find that a lot of accelerators have themes. So, for example, the Lightning Lab does cohorts quite well in that they've got a cohort based on energy startups, for example. Their latest one is tourism. So if you're a startup in those industries, that's a really good fit for you. Other accelerators like Flux tend to be a bit more digitally focused, but have a broader spectrum of companies on the scale of sort of the really early stuff and also stuff that is scaling up. So it depends on the tech, depends on your stage. It also depends on what you need. Quite often we find founders who've done this before. This is their third or fourth startup, and they don't have the patience to sit through a 3-month accelerator program that teaches them how to pitch because they know how to do it. In that case, an incubator tends to be a better option for them.
Awesome. Olga, as a startup, how do you decide or vet that an accelerator or incubator is right for you?
For biotech, biomedical research, the crucial criteria of survival would be lab space. We can't just have an office with a computer and do, startup job. We do need to have lab. So that's the main criteria of our survival and choice of accelerator or incubator. As I said, it's the supply or the offer is not there for companies like ours. So it's not the matter of choosing the accelerator. There is none that would help us. Regarding level 2, we didn't choose it. It's actually spontaneously formed around the companies that are in biotech and biomedical research space. And once again, just a bunch of very active, clever people decided to survive rather than to go down, and created this level 2 hub. And yeah, that's probably the same story for any company in this space in biomedical.
Awesome. It sounds like you're doing an incredible service to New Zealand, so well done. I would like to maybe throw a bit of a curveball in here. There's often a debate in New Zealand or in the world around accelerators and incubators. Do they really work? Are they useful? And I think it actually kind of depends on the size of the country and the market that you're in. And so in New Zealand's case, I guess the question I want to pose is there a use case for accelerators that aren't just accelerating high growth companies, but also they have a role in like lifting the entire market's sort of awareness of being a founder or entrepreneurship, if that makes sense. So, you know, if someone goes into, say, like a lightning lab and they didn't know they wanted to be a founder and then they went in there with an idea and they become a founder, are they more likely to go into the entrepreneurial space? Can you talk a little, it is a little bit of a curveball, but can you talk a little bit about, you know, the value of an incubator and accelerator to the general New Zealand and then to high growth kind of, you know, companies and the differences that people sort of maybe need to consider when they're posing that argument? Bit long-winded, but you kind of get the point. Do you want to start?
Sure. Look, I think the first part around, I guess, general capacity building, I think there is absolutely a role for that, for a lot of the early stage programs. And you talked about Lightning Lab, and they've been around a while and working in a number of different spaces. So I think absolutely there's a huge opportunity to build that capacity, because often it takes the skill sets that to be built a while to do that. In terms of, I guess, the focus on high growth, I think ultimately you need to have outcomes in terms of you've actually got to grow businesses that grow. And so I think that is the opportunity for those programs. And I think in New Zealand, there's probably been a gap, dare I say it, with corporate innovation being involved in driving this. So if you look at Silicon Valley or more broadly, there's a lot of not just startups involved there, but there's a lot of corporate, both money and activity being driven. You don't tend to see that in New Zealand as strongly. And so I think the accelerators have kind of helped to catalyse and build that bridge. And that's certainly what we've been trying to do, but you see that in other areas as well. And I think that's how we start really driving some of the outcomes that we need.
So I think it's not just up to the accelerators and incubators to develop an entrepreneurial mindset in New Zealand. I think we are ecosystem players that also contains tertiary organisations and student groups, as well as government entities, individual companies and founders. We all have a part to play in building this entrepreneurial capability. Accelerators and incubators are great at showcasing what can happen at the end. They are great at telling founder stories and showcasing new technology that is inspirational. I think that's something that we can do quite well.
Cool. Olga, what are the contracts like and what are the payoffs?
With the hub?
With the accelerator?
Well, as I said, I have very little experience with Accelerator.
I mean, as a company.
Well, but I can talk about hub, you know, that would provide with a lab space. It's actually a great idea, and we feel very, very lucky that we're part of it. And I can say that at the very early stage, we didn't have, obviously, any fundings and all that, but because we were all concentrated in one small spot on one level, we were able to pull our resources together. And actually, 3 companies were renting one lab space, and not just space, we pulled together human resources. And for instance, I was involved with 3 companies on research and development side. So I think it's excellent idea of very efficient uses of resources.
Do you have any advice for other people who are in your position and in your kind of space? Who might want to follow
come to level 2 and talk to Inchi.
I didn't ask you to say that.
It's the best time. Okay, going back to, I guess, corporate innovation, how does Kiwibank fit into this space?
So look, we started the FinTech Accelerator because we wanted to drive that not just from a Kiwibank perspective, but also taking a perspective to the broader ecosystem. And this year we've expanded that out further by inviting other partners to come and join us. So we've got Xero, SBS Bank, Visa. So you know, to Imchi's point, it takes an ecosystem approach, which is the ecosystem of both partners as well as the players out there, and working with NTT and Callaghan and some of those players as well. So I think we're actively looking for partnership opportunities at the end of the day. That's what the weight we can bring to bear to really get behind these companies. We were a startup 16 years ago. We think that we, and Xero is, I guess, the biggest poster child of that at the moment. New Zealand's first decacorn in the making, and so there's a good opportunity for these companies to give back and mobilise behind the next wave of fintechs.
Awesome. And then I guess the last question I want to talk about is Kiwis can be super humble, and sometimes our founders or people with ideas don't really know what to do, where to go, and it's quite scary to approach organisations like yours. So what's your sort of pieces of advice to those people that might think that they're a fit but they're a little bit shy or they're being a little bit humble?
I mean, sell your strength.
Yeah,
Find out what it is. Yeah, find out what it is that you do well, and play on that strength, because everyone's got it. What we love seeing is people who are really passionate about solving a problem, not necessarily because they've got a really cool piece of tech that they want to see more copies of, but because they've got a problem that they want to solve. And quite often when a company comes to us, or when I just have conversations with founders in the ecosystem, is they're not driven by technology push, they're driven by providing a solution. And that's something that I think everyone can talk about. Absolutely.
Alan?
Yeah, look, I echo that. I think when people are passionate about something, as you need to be as an entrepreneur and as a founder, then that helps you push past all those personal kind of boundaries and potential constraints that you put on yourself. And it's amazing to see people from all walks and all kind of backgrounds that actually you've seen them in one context, and perhaps they may have been kind of sort of more shy and restrained in that sense, but actually they just get unleashed to the world, and it's just great to see them in that environment when they're really passionate about something. That they're, like you said, Imshi, in terms of the problem that they're solving, then I think that becomes the great opener.
And the other thing that's worth mentioning is technology incubators and accelerators are really friendly.
Yes.
We're not a Dragon's Den panel that will try and tear your idea apart. We truly want to help. So we're very easy to talk to and very friendly.
Yeah, I was just going to say that usually hubs are very approachable.
Yeah, easy to talk to, very well connected, amazing and extensive, I guess, knowledge base that you have, both in terms of being a human encyclopedia and a knowledge encyclopedia. And just the connectivity and the access that you get. And just last thing from each of you, favourite company that you've worked with?
Ooh, it's like picking a favourite child.
Or excited about right now?
Well, our most recent graduate was Mint Innovation. They just moved out a couple of weeks ago to their first demonstration plant. So they've grown from testing their science in a beaker on a lab bench to building a pilot plant in our basement. Now they're building a demonstration plant out in East Tamaki, and that growth has been beautiful to see. And that's only been over the last 3 or 4 years, which is extremely quick.
And they use like microscopic bugs to break down computer parts to find gold.
I should say what they do. So Mint Innovation are recycling electronic waste by extracting gold and other precious metals from it using bacteria. So it's a really clean way to deal with the e-waste problem.
Also super cool.
Very cool.
Do you have a favourite company that you work with outside of your own?
Outside of my own?
You can say your own.
I actually quite like Brissy. That was a biomedical company that was trying to find solution for cystic fibrosis. And I like, their aim. I like their mission.
Cool. Lucky last?
Look, there's been some really great success stories, and as I mentioned, Henry's up for awards, the High Tech Awards. I think Choice to Pay, about to launch. They were in the program last year. Payments is a really hard area to crack. They've done really well cracking one side of the market, getting 70,000 merchants sort of connected to the platform. And really bringing a different consumer proposition around helping people to pay with purpose. And that's really going to be interesting to see how that take-up is driven. I think people will get behind it. So excited to see how that goes.
Cool. Well, that's all the time we have. So thanks so much for joining us today. For everyone who tuned in, thanks so much and have a great day. See you later.